Before we move on, I'm going to... I talked about this excerpt that they played at the beginning of the introduction of a clip, just kind of an introductory clip where MacArthur says, so then they tell you that you've got to join the Me Too movement. You've got to join the LGBTQ movement. You've got to join transgender identity movement. And so what happens to the church is it chases the world until it abandons its own message that we hear on Sunday. Okay? So basically the remark I wanted to make there, and I know this isn't anything we're going to get into deeply, okay, though Andy and I get into it pretty deeply in our book. When you're an institution, and the church is an institution, and authority goes along with institutions, when you're an institution, unless it was the coveted Protestant Reformation where church orthodoxy was law, unfortunately the Enlightenment came along, okay, and so in America we have a choice, but whether the church of old or the church of new, it's an institution, and institutions survive on one thing and one thing only, and that's money, and that money comes from the culture. So by virtue of the fact that the church is an institution, it's going to be swallowed up by culture eventually. It's only a matter of time. No?
And here's another statement he makes at the beginning. And this statement actually came from the preview clip that he used to promote this entire interview. But he's got MacArthur saying, he says, it doesn't mean I avoid everything political. This is MacArthur speaking, because I also want to do, now listen to this, I want to do anything I can to elevate justice and righteousness in the world, so as a Christian, I want to take responsibility for whatever political avenues that I can go down that are going to increase the order of society, the blessing of society. That is a frightening statement, for one thing.
Mm-hmm.
That is a very frightening statement, because can you imagine, having made a statement like that, can you imagine an individual like MacArthur operating under the auspices of a church state?
No, well.
Okay. So that's a frightening statement right there to begin with. Okay. Second of all, that completely contradicts everything he gets into and spends a great amount of time on half hour later into the interview, where he's talking about if we don't submit to whatever authority is in charge, we're disobeying God. Okay. Well, all right. Well, which is it, John?
Right.
If that's the case, then what business do you even have being in politics in the first place? You have no business making any kind of political contribution whatsoever.
Did you keep your thought, John?
Well, yes, and actually Andy sparked another thought, but the cry of Ben Shapiro's heart is we are losing America because we are losing what he considers to be Judeo-Christian morality.
Mm.
And so the thing that Ben thinks he is trying to inspire here, I think, is, so when he's asking these questions about Christian relevance and the relevance of the church and the impact of the church over time, what he's really looking for is someone to affirm to him that somehow the church is going to prevail. And this is the fundamental juxtaposition that came out of the Enlightenment. The existence of Reformation theology was a roaring effort to go back to the theology of Augustine and the Dark Ages.
Mm-hmm.
And John MacArthur represents Dark Ages theology in spades, even though he wants to pretend he doesn't.
Right.
And the problem that they had right at the threshold of the Enlightenment is the church was being laughed out of existence. It had been in power for the better part of 1,200, 1,500 years, and it had produced nothing but political destruction. Nothing but. And only in as much as a culture deviated from church orthodoxy and church power did it actually prosper and thrive. And so Ben Shapiro, of course, in his catastrophic misunderstanding of the Enlightenment, I'm sure he would take issue with that comment, but it doesn't change the fact that he does not understand where it comes from. The fact of the matter is he's looking for someone to affirm church relevance in the future. And the problem the church has always had is it can't survive unless somebody has a gun pointing at everybody else's head.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Its fundamental doctrines are destructive, which is what crushes a culture at the root. And so it's not Christian morality that does it. And that's the thing that just kills me in this, is that Ben is looking for an affirmation that cannot come. And particularly if John MacArthur is the poster child for the political involvement, this is exactly why the church has never been able to resist Islam. Is because most of the thinkers, the Christian thinkers, had the same fundamental presumption. Well, as Christians, it's not our job to resist something that is fundamentally militant. We can talk about it. We can go, oh, that's bad. Oh, that's evil. But all we can sit around and do is complain. We can't actually physically do anything about it. And this was exactly why during the American Revolution, John Payne skewered this particular branch of Christianity in America. You have no business engaging in our freedom if you can't pick up a gun and fight with us to actually obtain freedom from tyranny.
Right, and we need to talk about that, and we're going to get there. We got our thing doohickey marked here, okay?